Hello everyone, my name is Colin Brenna, and today we will be speaking about the disparities in the LGBTQ plus community within the healthcare system. My audience today is my parents, and we will begin. Within the United States, people of homosexuality experience disparities within the healthcare system. You would think the system would have advanced far from any type of disparity, considering the ever-increasing positive views for the LGBTQ plus community. However, there is still an alarming amount of LGBTQ plus disparities in mental and physical health. For example, many parts of the community do not receive nearly enough education and services to keep our community thriving, emphasizing on individuals and groups not receiving enough education on this broad topic. I, myself, did not receive the proper education of many life-threatening diseases and infections that unfortunately come with being gay until fairly recently. I was a 7th grader when I was first informed of any sort of dangers caused by same-sex intercourse. I was brought up with this information through a movie and not a textbook. I watched the movie Dallas Buyers Club with my family, and I, as a 13-year-old, took it upon myself to further research these topics after watching that movie. Although movies and social media are where many of us get our information, I shouldn't have to learn something that is so life-threatening through a movie, especially if it affects almost everyone. Today, we will be discussing the inequalities and disparities in healthcare that those of the LGBTQ plus community experience. It is almost proven that the LGBTQ plus community struggles with the healthcare disparities in physical and mental health issues. Jeff Curley from AmericanProcess.org wrote an article comparing 18 different disparities that those of the LGBTQ plus community experience compared to their counterpart, the heterosexual population. These polls were collected by the California Health Interview Study, this state-level group that consistently tracks information on topics of sexual orientation. One disparity that stuck out to me more than the rest is the ideation of suicide. According to this chart, almost 50% of transgender adults are likely to have suicide ideation. For reference, about 2% of heterosexual population are likely to have the same exact ideation. That is almost a 48% difference. Continuing on with disparities, 35% of homosexuals that are surveyed were likely to attempt suicide compared to the 10% of the heterosexual population surveyed. By no means am I trying to downplay one population, but I am more so trying to give you a solid idea of how much of a problem these disparities are. By now, we should have gotten the idea that healthcare is something that the general public of the United States already financially struggles with today. These struggles especially impact those of many minority groups. Healthcare is not readily accessible to those of a lower income. Ongoing statistics have shown that those of the LGBTQ plus community are less likely to have health insurance coverage. Those who do not have coverage are forced to visit the emergency room instead for any health concerns. The crazy thing is that the average bill for a visit to the emergency room racks up to almost $2,200 or more without coverage. Imagine having to break the bank just to be able to stay alive. Like many people, most people receive their health insurance coverage through their place of work. A study done by the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force and the National Center for Transgender Equality showed that almost 97% of transgender employees experience some sort of verbal or physical harassment due to their gender identity. People today are still experiencing these unfortunate circumstances, which results in them either voluntarily leaving the company or being fired without reason. This takes a toll on those who fall within this margin. Being verbally and physically harassed for being who you are is just flat out wrong. This leaves many people without health coverage and the help that they need. It is an everlasting loop of torture. Let's just take a moment of what that means. First, you have a job which covers your health insurance. That's great. However, you aren't able to work peacefully due to the ongoing harassment you experience. It takes a mental toll on you and you begin to go to therapy to help. However, you start to experience the harassment a little bit more than usual, which leads to you either separating from the company or being forced out of it. You are then left without health coverage, meaning that you cannot afford health coverage for therapy, which leads you to your own thoughts. These unimaginable thoughts become far too heavy to bear, resulting in you becoming that 50% who have suicide ideation, and sadly might result to the 35% of those who attempt suicide. It is unfortunate to those of the LGBTQ plus community that experience these disparities on the daily. It is important that we think twice of these disparities. Actions begins with us. And the one thing we could do is integrate more education and exposure to the dangers that come with living as a homosexual. We must provide more services that are easily and readily available to the public. This would eventually decrease the odds tremendously. I find following these steps will one day slow these disparities, hoping they disappear completely. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.